This is the story of a rich man and a poor maid, a love that many people tried to destroy, but they didn't know how strong it was. In the city of Abuja, there lived a young billionaire named Tunde. He was 29 years old, tall, handsome, and very wealthy. His house looked like a palace, filled with gold decorations and shiny cars. But even with all this, Tunde was not happy. Everyone around him only loved him because of his money. One day, a new maid arrived at his mansion. Her name was Chiamaka, a 23 years old village girl with smooth dark skin, bright eyes, and a smile that can be very warming. She didn't wear fancy clothes, only simple gowns, but she carried herself with dignity and grace. She worked hard without complaining, and she never tried to get Tunde's attention. At first, Tunde didn't notice her, but one morning, while Chiamaka was washing clothes near the backyard, she started humming a soft tune. Her voice was sweet like a bird singing after the rain. Tunde, who was passing by, stopped and listened quietly. That was the first day he truly saw her, not as maid but as someone special. Day by day, Tunde found himself drawn to her. He would ask her questions, help her with little things, and sometimes just watch her smile. Chiamaka treated him with respect but never begged or chased after his money. This made her different from every other woman he had met. But life in a mansion was never easy. Other workers began to gossip. Some laughed, others grew jealous. Soon, the news reached Tunde's mother, Madame Grace. She was a proud and powerful woman who loved her family status more than anything. How can my son, a billionaire, even think of a poor maid? She shouted. This will never happen in my house. But Tunde's heart refused to listen. He felt alive with Chiamaka. She gave him peace, choice, honest, things money could never buy. One evening, as the skies turned orange, Tunde took Chiamaka's hand and whispered, I don't care what anyone says. You are the one I want and the one I love. But just when their love was beginning to grow stronger, a storm of challenges rose. His family, friends, and society all stood against them. Would Tunde fight for his love or would Chiamaka be forced to walk away? From the day Tunde held Chiamaka's hand and confessed his love, their lives changed. Every moment they shared was sweet, but danger was already waiting. Madame Grace, Tunde's mother, refused to accept their relationship. She called Chiamaka into her grand sitting room one afternoon. The chairs were covered in gold, the chandeliers sparkled above, and Madame Grace sat like a queen. Listen to me, young lady, she said sharply. You will never be part of this family. My son deserves a woman of his class, not a poor maid like you. Chiamaka bowed her head respectfully, but her voice was firm. Ma, I don't want his money. I only love him for who he is. Her boldness shocked Madame Grace. She became even more determined to end their love. Soon after, strange things started happening in the mansion. Some workers who were jealous of Chiamaka began to lie about her. They told Tunde's mother that Chiamaka was stealing, that she was pretending to be innocent just to tap the billionaire. Madame Grace believed every word. One evening, as Chiamaka was about to serve food at the dining table, Madame Grace shouted in front of everyone, Guards, take this girl away. She was no place in this house. Chiamaka froze, her eyes swelling with tears. She looked at Tunde, who stood up quickly, his face turned red with anger. "Madam, enough," Tunde said. "No one has the right to insult her. If she leaves this house, I will leave too." The entire mansion went silent, even the workers' gasped. For the first time, Tunde had challenged his mother openly. But Madame Grace was not a woman who gave up easily. She folded her arms and said coldly, "We shall see how long you so-called love will last." From that day, the battle truly began. Tunde and Chiamaka's love grew stronger, but Madame Grace and society grew harsher. Everywhere they turned, there were whispers, gossip, and traps waiting for them. Madame Grace was not ready to lose. She made a dangerous plan to disgrace Chiamaka in front of the whole society. A week later, she invited powerful businessmen, rich families, and friends to a grand party in the mansion. The lights sparkled, music filled the air, and expensive cars lined the driveway. Everyone wore glittering clothes, but Madame Grace had another plan. She wanted to embrace Chiamaka's before all the guests. When the party was at its peak, Madame Grace called Chiamaka forward. "Ladies and gentlemen, beautiful people," she said, smiling wickedly. "Meet the maid who thinks she can marry my son." The crowd began to laugh. "Ha ha ha ha." Some clapped mockingly. Chiamaka stood frozen, her hands trembling. Tears welled up in her eyes as people whispered, "A maid? Impossible." But before she could run away, Tunde stepped forward, his voice firm and strong. "Enough," he shouted. The music stopped. Everyone turned. "This woman," he continued, holding Chiamaka's hand tightly, "is more valuable than all the gold in this house. She is honest, pure, and kind. She loves for me who I am, not for my money. And today, in front of you all, I choose her." The hall went silent. Gaps Tunde bent down on one knee, right there in front of the crowd, and brought one shiny ring. "Chiamaka," he said softly, his eyes full of love, "will you marry me?" Tears rolled down Chiamaka's cheeks, but this time they were tears of joy. Her voice shook as she whispered, "Yes, yes, I will. I will marry you, Tunde." The guests were shocked. Some clapped, some shook their heads, but no one could deny the power of their love. Even Madame Grace, though still angry, saw the fire in her son's eyes. She realized nothing could break them apart. From that day, Tunde and Chiamaka's love grew stronger. Though many people had tried to fight them, in the end, love won. They lived happily,